Hey strangers. So I am gonna make another video today, talking about a topic that, I've been asked a lot about, in my other videos. Um, so yeah, I look super gross today and I'm homesick, which is why I'm making this video. But, getting into the topic, I've been asked a lot about, to talk about, like, intersex things and my experience with that and things of that nature. I don't know. And so I was basically going to talk about, like, I guess, like, what intersex is a little bit, and then, like, my experience, coming into my identity as intersex, and my experiences, with the medical system and some other stuff. So that light is really annoying me. I'm just gonna go turn it off. Ah, I just broke a pencil. Ugh. So, I identify as intersex, which I've spoken about in a couple of previous videos. Um, Basically, what intersex means is it means that you have, natal sex characteristics, so things related to your primary or secondary sex characteristics. So, like, things like genitals, hormones, chromosomes, reproductive anatomy, even things like body hair, the way your like breasts, the way your body develops, things like that. And it's something that you're born with. It's not like you can't like transition to being intersex or become intersex through medical intervention. It's something that you are, or something that develops naturally as just the natural course that your body would go on. And so I recently discovered, I guess I just like start at the beginning. I was investigated for like intersex traits when I was a young child because I had some issues with the way my body developed that was not considered to be, the dyadic norm for how people's bodies develop when they're children. It wasn't anything to do with my reproductive organs or external genitalia specifically. It was actually that I had a lot of body hair when I was younger. Like, I don't know if you can see. No, you probably can't see. But I have, like, really hairy arms, and it's not nearly as noticeable now. But when I was, like I've had this same quantity of arm hair since I was, like, 5 or 6. And so you can imagine, like, this much arm hair. You can't even see it because it's like blonde, but you can imagine like this quantity of arm hair on an arm that's like a third of the size. People used to make fun of me a lot. And the other thing is that my shoulders were really broad, and my like apparently like the way my chest was shaped and like my nipple placement and stuff like that was not like the norm for people who are assigned female at birth. And the other thing is that I was missing sections of muscle in my chest, which was originally what had them start to look at it. And so I had to go and get some ultrasounds and stuff like that because they were concerned that the way that my chest was developing was related to having an intersex condition. And then I had to go for some medical tests and some ultrasounds and stuff. And then when they determined that I had like functional ovaries and, well, I don't know if they're functional, but I have ovaries, I have a vagina, I have a uterus, I menstruate, and then after that they were like, okay, it's probably nothing. And then that was pretty much the last I heard of it. I did get a lot of like flack in school, especially in elementary school, for things that I've recently discovered are intersex related traits, such as my arm hair, the fact that I always had very broad shoulders. Like my shoulders are wider than my hips most of the time. I mean, like if I'm, my weight kind of fluctuates. And so like if I'm in a period where I'm not on testosterone and I'm like gaining more weight for my standard of what is normal for me, then sometimes my hips will be a little bit wider. But for the most part, like as far as my body structure, My shoulders are, wider than they usually are on AFAB people. And so I got made fun of a lot for that. I got made fun of a lot because my chest looked like a guy's chest for a very long time, and I didn't have my breasts come in for a very long time, and I still only have a very small chest, which I'm very grateful for, but, when you're growing up as a girl, people make fun of you for stuff like that. But I just, my parents always just told me that it was normal, and, that was just the way my body was. And of course, they didn't know any different anyway, and so that's just kind of how I internalized it. And then, actually, only this year, like, I don't remember how long ago, but I'm pretty sure it was like within the last year. I have always had a lot of difficulty, like, having penetrative sex and using tampons and stuff like that. And I had, I don't really, like, feel like going into a lot of detail about, like, the specifics of it. But basically, like, I had an idea of, like, what my internal anatomy was and what my genitals were like, and I couldn't find any evidence. Like, I'd looked it up a few times, and I couldn't really find any evidence online that it was abnormal. And whenever I tried to look it up, it was just like, oh, yeah, that's this thing. Like, it's normal or whatever. And so I was just like, okay, I guess I just have, like, a weird cervix or something. I don't know. And then I was using, like, I had an incident where I wound up kind of hurting myself trying to use a menstrual cup, and I had to go to the doctor's. And I had an exam, and they realized that I had something related to my internal anatomy that was not normal. That was not, they didn't know what it was. They'd never seen anything like it before. And so I had to go for a series of tests, and I'm still in the middle of going for those tests. Like, I had to do an ultrasound, and then I had to do an exam, and then I had to do an ultrasound, and then I had to do an MRI, and then I had to do a urologist appointment, and then I had to do a follow-up urologist appointment, which I missed last week, and then I have to see a gynecologist in April, and I had to get my karyotype done, and it's just all of these tests and stuff. And I have an idea of what it is now. And it's something that I've had my whole life. It's not, a tumor or anything weird. But yeah, it's been a trip because, like, you kind of, like, grow up knowing what your body looks like and knowing, what you've got going on, and you just kind of tell yourself that it must be normal because everyone kind of has a certain amount of egocentrism where they think that their personal experience is universal until proven otherwise. And then finding out that it wasn't normal, and then having to deal with, the reactions of my doctor and, like, my own internalized intersexism and things like that, because I think people have this idea that, like, being intersex would be really cool until they actually find out. I mean, like, most people do think that, don't find out that they're intersex, but like, it's very common, and it's something that I had entertained before too, that it would be really cool to be intersex. And then when you actually are faced with the reality that there's something, I don't want to say there's something wrong, but, like, there's something that is different. There's something that other people would perceive as being wrong with your body, and it's just the way you are, and there's nothing you can do about it. And also that other body image issues that you've been dealing with for a long time that you've previously reconciled are related to, like, a disorder and not just, within the realm of normality of what a dyadic body is. Like, it presents a lot of body image issues. It presents a lot of, like, yeah, just things I wasn't expecting to really deal with. Because I'd always suspected that I was intersex for my whole life because of my physical traits and because of the fact that I had to go for those tests when I was a child. But for some reason, I was still under the impression that it would make me feel better to find out that I was intersex, and it really didn't. I mean, I'm not saying I feel bad about it, but I'm saying I guess I wasn't expecting to have to deal with that kind of, like, internalized intersexism with, like, holy shit, there's something wrong with me, that I really did have to deal with once I had that realization. Um, and so back to the doctor thing, yeah. So I've had to go to all these appointments, and the conclusion that I've started identifying as intersex, and I do use the term identifying as intersex because the thing is that the term intersex is not really a medically meaningful term anymore. It's a term that hasn't really been used in medicine since the 80s, to my knowledge. And basically, intersex is a personal identity and a social identity to people who have um, differences in sexual development, for people who have natal sex anatomy and characteristics that are different from that are outside of the dyadic norm. So even things like diphalia, which is a medical condition where you have two penises, is considered an intersex condition because it's outside of the dyadic norm. And so people kind of have this idea that if you're intersex, that means like you have a penis and a vagina, or you're H word that I'm not going to use, which is not what it is. It just means that your anatomy is different. Sometimes it means you're in the middle. Sometimes it just means that you're not, you're outside of, or you're, something different. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're like smack dab in the middle between male and female. But it just means that, your sexual development is different and your physical characteristics are different, in relationship to sex. So, I started identifying as intersex after I spoke to other intersex people about it, and I, sent asks to like intersex resource blogs and stuff like that, and I did my own research, and I found out that the thing that I have is considered to be an intersex condition by the intersex community. The thing is that I found out is that people think that you have to be diagnosed by a doctor as being intersex, but the thing is that doctors don't really diagnose people as intersex anymore. Not if they can avoid it. There is there is still unfortunately like surgery that happens at birth, forced sex reassignment surgery and stuff like that. And I think like if that happened to someone, then doctors would kind of be forced to acknowledge that they're intersex because they've had that like coercive surgery element to it. But for the most part, and I have not had forced sex reassignment surgery to my knowledge. Yeah, so like doctors really try to narrow the category of what intersex is, and they pretty much just view everyone as being like a dyadic person with a medical condition. Like they've really, over the past couple decades, tried to really just eliminate the category of intersex altogether, and just be like, these are male people with differences of sexual development, and these are female people with differences of sexual development, and really just try to split everyone into being in one of those two categories, and just treat everyone as being either a dyadic AMAB person or a dyadic AFAB person with certain conditions. And so, yeah, my doctors have never used the term intersex when discussing this with me, even though, I was sent for a karyotype test to see what my chromosomes are, and all of these tests that I've had to go through that are in alignment with what so many intersex people have to go through, like socially and personally, and just in the path of my life. The more I started connecting with other intersex people, I realized that so many of my life experiences were the same as their life experiences, but yeah, it's not a medical diagnosis for the most part. And like there is a large degree of self-diagnosis with intersexuality. It's not like it's not like a self-expressive identity. It's not something that you could just be like, oh, I just decide that I'm intersex. Like it is based in physical anatomy. But I'm saying that if you have physical anatomy and you've, been to a doctor about it and you know what it is and you look it up online and it is considered by the intersex community to be an intersex condition, like your doctor is never going to say to you, you're intersex, because it creates a whole host of issues for them. Like obviously the medical community and the intersex community do not have a great relationship because of the amount of legal ramifications of that and lawsuits and malpractice concerns, and doctors don't know what the fuck they're doing in relationship to intersex people, and usually wind up mistreating them or, creating horrible human rights concerns. And so the medical community obviously has their own vested interest for not providing people with access to a community based on intersex status. And I mean, I've had doctors that I've been working with on this that are great, and I'm not saying that, every individual doctor has it out for intersex people, but I'm saying that the medical community as a whole, as a structure, as an institution, does kind of have it out for intersex people. And I've had my own host of like really horrible experiences with doctors since I've been exploring this whole thing. Like, when I went to get my ultrasound, a doctor, like, the ultrasound tech was like looking at it, and then she was just like, oh my god, like I have no idea what that is, I have to call in a doctor. And you're never supposed to say that. Like, you're never, like, when you're giving someone an ultrasound, you're never supposed to tell them that you're freaked out by it or you don't know what it is or something. Like, even if you're like supposed to be diagnosing them with something and you find like cancer or something like that, you're not supposed to tell them at the time. You're supposed to just make a note of it and take the pictures and send it to their doctor, and then their doctor will talk to them about it. But that's not what happened for me, because my anatomy is just so freaky that I had to be witness to their opinions about it. And then she called the doctor in, and then the doctor looked at it, and the doctor was like, oh my god, I've never seen anything like that, what the hell? And then started like throwing out all these ideas of what it could be and stuff like that, and like right in front of me, like visibly acting freaked out about it. I'm just like, that is so fucking unprofessional. And I've also had doctors, like, when I asked to get my karyotype done, they would say, there's not enough evidence for us to justify, requesting that test for you, even though, like, I have all of these things that could very well result in me having, or could very well, like, be a result of, or be related to me having non-dyadic normative chromosomes. She wouldn't issue the test for me, and when I asked for the test, she basically said that, like, if I was intersex or if I had different chromosomes or whatever, she said it wouldn't do me any good to know. Basically, I didn't have a right to the knowledge about my own genes or my own body or things like that. So, like, yeah, the experiences that I've had with doctors and medical professionals when I've been dealing with this whole experience has been very kind of, I mean, my GP is pretty good. I mean, she doesn't really know anything about intersex things, but she's a good person. But all the other doctors that I've had to deal with about it have just been absolutely offensive and, purposefully trying to gatekeep my access to information about my body, and just, it's just been a really mildly traumatizing experience. And yeah, so that's basically where I'm at with figuring out the whole intersex thing. I do know tangibly what it is that I have, but like I still have to go for a bunch more tests just because they want to see, if it's affecting my health, if it's something that they're gonna like recommend surgery on. I don't really think that I need to get surgery on it, but we will see like what the assessment they make and what they recommend after I go through the like 3 other doctor's appointments that I have to go to in the next few months. But regardless, yeah, that's basically all I had to say. Like, that's, what intersex is, how I started identifying as intersex, what my medical experience in figuring this whole thing out has been like, and, my own internalized issues with trying to come to terms with that identity and stuff like that. So I hope this, filled you guys in or answered some of your questions or concerns about my intersexuality. I don't know. And yeah, I will be making more videos soon, and I will see you next time.